89.3 FM Toledo and Lima, 88.5 FM Wasia, on the web at yeshome.com, on the SFM Android and iTunes app, and the TuneIn Radio app, and now at 89.1 FM Fremont.
It's always a pleasure when we get to talk to the artists that we play here on Yes FM, especially when they have brand new music out. And Flame has a new CD releasing tomorrow. It's called Forward. On the phone line, we do have Flame. Hello there.
Hey, how are you?
We are well. How are you?
I am well. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome. Now, are you at home right now, or are you out on the road? Are you doing music festivals? What's going on with you right now?
Yes, I am at home right now. Actually heading to a juvenile detention center to speak to a couple of those in the city, and then I'm heading to New York tomorrow to do a documentary and stuff on the new album with Fox News. So that's pretty cool.
That is really cool. That's amazing.
Yeah. So the ball is rolling.
Yeah, it looks like it is. So brand new CD coming out tomorrow called Forward, and we would love to hear the scoop on Forward. We know that it is a very prominent record, and lots of issues that you're dealing with on it. So kind of give us the background on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So this project is laying out the groundwork for the discussion that has to be had with the body of Christ first, as it relates to how to move forward in a progressively secularizing American culture, and then how to think that through. What's our role? Just look at the turbulent times that we're living in right now. People need answers, and we need to kind of fall back and reflect on the scriptures, church history, and how to best engage culture so we can serve our neighbors well. So that's what this album entails, and it's a lot of content. It's very weighty. I don't have any rap features other than my comrade, my label mate, Mike Real, because I have so much to say, and I think it's going to be one of those records that stands the test of time, so I'm excited about it.
Well, we have been seeing some press releases and just different news outlets talking about the new album, and it had quoted you, and hopefully we're not misquoting you, that you said that you felt like this was probably the most important record that you've ever put out. Do you feel that way? And if so, what makes this the most important record for you?
Yeah, that's almost accurate. I did put something on social media that says I feel like it's going to be one of my most important records, simply because of the timeliness. Right now, there's a lot of pressure being put on the Christian, and it's confusing. It's difficult to understand how to exist and how to function. And in many ways, it's simple, but in other ways, it's complex. And the conversation has to be had, especially with the younger generation of Christians, because there's so many things happening right now that we've never experienced and we've never seen with our own two eyes. So this album is going to be offering perspective and insight, and I think years to come, people will refer back to the album and sit down and comb through it and say, wow, I get it, connecting dots, and then getting involved and making an impact in the culture.
Well, I mean, how do you make an impact in the culture as far as engaging the culture with the gospel? Because it's one of the things that we noticed, too, in your press releases. You were talking about that. So in your mind, how do you do that?
Yeah, so in many ways, because Christianity is holistic, so it's not just a bunch of people concerned about your soul only. It's also a group of people connected to our King, and we're concerned about human flourishing and uplifting and upholding human dignity. So this has to play out in the political realm for the Christian. This has to play out in the public square, in the arts, in media. This has to play out in how we function in our local congregations and in our communities. So what we have to do is we have to be digesting heavy dosages of the scriptures, and then we have to, figure out our skill sets, our talents, and how to infiltrate mainstream culture, but not just with positivity only, but explaining a Christian vision of reality, because now we live in a nation where people may not assume Christianity, or if they do, it may not line up with New Testament Christianity. So we have to be vocal, we have to be bold, but we have to be kind, we have to be courageous, but at the same time, we need to love on people by speaking the truth. So in the record, man, I'm going to be laying out, or I already laid out, a lot of details as to what that looks like and how to get involved in your community, in your church, even in the political realm, but being a light in those spaces and not just being a presence that blends in.
Once again, we're talking to Flame, the brand new album Forward coming out tomorrow. And of course, with Forward, the idea of moving forward. Can you kind of delve into that a little bit more, too, about the idea of moving forward in our culture? I mean, you talked about engaging the culture and how to do that, but just the idea of moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So that song, there's a discussion going on within, the music culture and Christianity. There's a discussion going on that pertains to how do we function. So what I wanted to do was first offer some insights from the past. There was a time period where you had the Enlightenment that pretty much changed the world around us. It introduced modern science, modern medicine. A lot of new technologies were on the scene. And as the culture progressed, it tempted the Christians to want to fit in and not seem weird. So they were willing to throw out some essential and fundamental doctrines that make up Christianity, as well as some of the fundamental things that have set this nation in course. So in the song, I said, man, this time period that we live in is similar to that one. So as we move forward, we can't just become social gospel persons. We can't just be talking about staying off drugs, staying in school only. We have to say those things, but we also have to preach the message of reconciliation and forgiveness and grace and talk about sin and talk about the return of Christ, because it's such a crazy time to live in, and people need real hope. They need real answers. And from the mainstream hip-hop culture, guys are giving positive answers, and those things are helpful, but they're incomplete. So the album is saying, listen, just as an example, there's a gentleman by the name of Russell Moore. He wrote a book titled Onward. It's not out yet. It'll be out this August. And this is probably going to be the key piece of material dealing with this topic. But he gave an example of him and a couple other people speaking at a secular university about adoption. And there was an Islamic young lady that went up and she spoke and said, I'm here because I care about this topic, but I care about it as an Islamic young woman, and I care about it because of my worldview. And he pointed out that that's our thing. That's how we ought to function. So we ought to be in these places wherever we can, helping with human trafficking, helping people think through the abortion issue, the death culture that we live in that champions euthanasia, and people are struggling with gender identity, racial identity. We have to be in these places talking about these things, but letting people know we're here as Christians and we care about these things for transcendent reasons. That's why we want to, form alliances with others so that we can bring an impact in the world, but for the sake of Christ. So that's just one example of how we need to be in specific places, but raising the banner for the Christian worldview while being kind and making that appeal through love and the gospel.
I appreciate you giving the example, because I was going to ask you, how do we reconcile, the arts, the sciences, and all this stuff without letting the culture permeate us, but us permeating the culture as Christians. So you gave a great example there. Feel free to share maybe another example if you want to.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Another one is, so I live in St. Louis, Missouri, and one of the tragic events that kind of really got the people talking was Ferguson, Missouri, and the situation happened with Mike Brown. So here it is, you have this tragic event, there's a lot of racial tension in the city. What does the Christian do? And one of the things that we were able to do, Clearsight Music and a couple other churches that were on board, we did what we called a boycott. So we went into Ferguson, Missouri, and it was about 500 plus people, and we just spread throughout the community, and we made purchases at as many local businesses as we could to let the community know that we're here, we care about you, we support you. And they were very grateful, very thankful for the Christian presence. They were thankful that we tangibly spent money on products, showing that we actually cared about their well-being. And then not only did we do that, we let them back to a concert where they got a chance to hear, music, and then I was able to preach the gospel and talk about the supernatural reality of God's enemy, who hates God, and he hates the image of God on all humanity, whether you're a Christian or not. So he'll use anything to divide us, whether it's race, whether it's, gender confusion. He'll use anything to divide us, not because he has stakes in a white race over a black race. He has stakes in not caring about God and not being excited about Jesus' agenda. So I was able to explain those kind of things to a non-Christian audience and to see people take interest in the gospel, and then also see follow-up and be able to connect with, young men myself and pick them up and take them to get jobs and fill out applications and learn how to be productive members of society, all through engaging culture, but with the Christian worldview. And that's just another example of how practically this can pan out. And people see the relevance of Christianity when we get involved and get engaged and get our hands dirty. And they say, wow, maybe there's something to this Christianity thing and to the Jesus that leads it.
Once again, we're talking to Flame, the brand new album Forward coming out tomorrow. So, and in closing, if people, they're listening to you and they're like, okay, this is what you did in the Ferguson area, how can I apply that to my area and just maybe some, because certain areas deal with certain social issues, what would be the best advice for you for them, maybe even, them being the answer to their own, question, maybe they're the solution. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. It's, in many ways it's simple. It's first feeling what we need to feel as Christians, like feeling the weight of it, feeling our responsibility, because, a lot of times when we look at the scriptures, we may not see a lot of political engagement coming from the Christian, but that's because of the style of government. So actually, we have more in common with Pilate or with Caesar in the scriptures as it pertains to bringing change about through political policy. So we see that we have the responsibility to get involved and to raise our voices. So people can just start asking questions. You could say, hey, I see that there's a need here. You can go to, say, your local schools and ask questions like, is there any way I can serve? I just want to come in and be a presence for the basketball team. I'm a Christian and I love sports. And they may say, sure, we don't care. Or what do you have in mind? And then you sit down, you develop a plan, and now you're at every game before, the high school kids go out, and you're giving them a pep talk, and then you're sharing the gospel. Maybe you bring refreshments. Then you start to develop relationships with kids. Whatever the particular need is, you can just go to facilities, tell them, you know what, I'm here as a Christian. I care about what I've seen in my community, and I want to help. Can you share with me some ways that I can do so? And then I'll share with you some ways that I can respond, and you never know what God can do with just those little inquiries as you see needs all around our world. Just get involved, start asking questions, Google searching, companies and whatever's in your community, whatever needs you find, just plug in and connect and get people in your church involved, and we can reach this world for the sake of the gospel by, paying attention to what's going on around us.
Once again, we're talking to Flame, the new CD Forward coming out tomorrow. And if people wanted to get a hold of your music, maybe find out more about you, social media, I'm sure you're all over the place on that. So if you could give web addresses or something like that.
Yes, indeed. So for all of my tour dates and all of my resources, you can go to Clear Sight Music. That's Sight, S-I-G-H-T, clearsightmusic.com. And I'm all over social media, and I'm very active. So Flame314. That's my tag for Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Periscope, and the social media networks that will be invented in the future. It will be at Flame314.
What's the 314 stand for? Anything special or just some cool numbers that you like?
It's just it's an area code for St. Louis, so it just represents the city.
There you go. Like here, we're the 419. So fantastic. Love it.
Nice.
Love
it. Excellent.
Hey, well, thank you so much for taking some time out and checking in with us. We wish you well on your ministry tonight, and then you with your news special tomorrow, and I look forward to seeing you in person, maybe in concert soon.
Yes, indeed. So hopefully that happens. Thank you for the interview. It was great.
It was great talking to you.
Yes, FM.